Welcome to the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show, where we break down every game every week across the National Football League. I am David Hassig. With me, as always, is the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt. Talk about a bad week, or maybe a good week, to lose a lot of money in Atlantic City or Las Vegas this week. A lot of one-win teams pulling off the upsets. It was just insane. Why are we even predicting games anymore?
Yes, it was nuts in the NFL, but you have to like that the Miami Dolphins are starting to put together a couple of nice wins. They're starting to believe in Brian Flores. It's going to be a great thing to watch them down the stretch and see how they do, because the next 3 games they have, things could get interesting for those teams down there in Miami.
And Atlanta pulls a shock upset. They might be on the way to 2 division wins in a row as they take on Carolina. We'll talk about that later. For more about what's going on in the NFL, let's go into our 4-minute offense.
Jennifer Mariwaika here with your 4-minute offense. Let's get to it. Big news coming from the AFC West this week. The Chiefs welcome back Patrick Mahomes from injury, only to suffer yet another loss from their longtime bullies, the Tennessee Titans. While Mahomes came to play a great game, did we get what we're used to from this reigning MVP in his first game back? However, it was the failed field goal attempt to tie the game that really broke the hearts of fans. With the loss of current division leaders are beginning to get nervous about claiming that first-round bye. And with the both Raiders and Chargers on an upward trajectory, it also puts the AFC West back up for grabs. Keeping it on track with our QBs, who else is feeling the burn from sleeping on Lamar Jackson? I'll be getting some of my aloe for those teams that passed him up. That's definitely for sure. Not only does he have the only win over the GOAT Tom Brady for the season, but this man is consistent. Taking a closer look at the numbers he's putting up, we're seeing almost identical numbers to what the Heisman Trophy winner from Louisville was putting up his senior year. With Sunday's game, Jackson joins Aaron Rodgers and Joe Montana as the only player to record 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and a perfect passer rating with at least 15 completions in a single game in the Super Bowl era. Now over to the NFC, it's the announcement of Dwayne Haskins as the starting quarterback for the Washington Redskins for the remainder of the season. The 15th overall pick from Ohio State will make his second career start against the Jets at home in Washington. It was in his debut against the Bills in Week 9 that he completed 15 of his 22 passes for 144 yards. And one more quarterback with a reason to be happy is none other than Arizona Cardinals' Kyler Murray. The first-round pick from Oklahoma broke the NFL's rookie record for the longest passing streak without an interception. The record was tied in 2016 by Dallas Cowboys QB Dak Prescott with 176 straight passes and Raiders' Derek Carr in 2014. It was the 11-yard pass to Larry Fitzgerald with which Murray hit his 177th straight pass. The streak also ended in the same game against Tampa Bay with 211 passes without a pick. I'm Jennifer Mariwaika, and that's your 4-minute offense.
Let's talk about the Thursday night game for Week 11. The Cleveland Browns coming off a much-needed win last week at home against Buffalo, but also continuing to surge are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They knocked off the LA Rams last week. Both teams looking to catch Baltimore. What are 3 keys to victory to keep these teams in the playoff hunt?
Well, let's start with the Browns in this ball game, because when you look at what they do well, they can run the football. You got Kareem Hunt now. You have Nick Chubb. Lean on that ground game. That's one way to neutralize the pressure. Second, you look at Baker Mayfield protecting the football. You're going to see a lot of pressure coming from the Steelers' defense. If you can evade that pressure, protect the ball, and get the ball out to your guys and Higgins and Landry and Beckham, you could have some success. Defensively, it should be all-out pressure against Mason Rudolph. He struggles handling pressure. He is not cognizant of pressure coming his way, front side or back side. I think they have an opportunity to turn the ball over. For Pittsburgh, offensively, you have to find ways to help him out. If you know he can't deal with pressure, move the pocket, shrink the field for him, allow him to have success that way. Also, they're going to get some guys back. You're going to see like Connor back there, so that's going to help out their ground game. Want to run right at the pressure. That's one way to neutralize pressure. Same key for Cleveland. Could be the same key for Pittsburgh, running right at that pressure. And third, make the plays that are there to be made. Pittsburgh has done a great job since adding Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's turning the ball over at a high clip, and once he gets the ball in his hands, he definitely knows what to do with it. He's bringing it back for a touchdown. So there are going to be some opportunities to make plays on the ball versus Baker Mayfield. You have to make the plays that are there to be made.
Who do you think wins this ball game and why?
I like Pittsburgh to win this one, and here's why. I think defensively, they're right where they want to be. They're aggressive. They're applying that pressure. They're turning the ball over. On offense, they still have one of the best offensive lines in the game. So the offensive line is going to do fine. I think getting those guys back healthy on offense will help them out. Despite Mason Rudolph and his ineffectiveness, I think they can keep this game close with their defense, and their offense will make just enough plays to get the win.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Pittsburgh's defensive front seven trying to get Baker Mayfield uncomfortable because he makes a lot of mistakes, and you know Minkah Fitzpatrick will be waiting for those balls tossed up in the air because of the pressure. When we come back, we will break down all of the Week 11 action right here on the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show on the Game Plus Network.
Troy Anthony here, taking you through Football Game Plan's best bets. This week we have Carolina taking on Atlanta. Two teams, Atlanta, record not so strong. Carolina coming off of a tough loss. I like Carolina in this one, minus 240 on the money line. In a divisional matchup, we have the 49ers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I like the Niners here on the money line at minus 560. That's a big money line. You might want to parlay that with something else. In our next matchup, we have New England versus Philly. I like New England minus 3.5 here. It's kind of a lot of points, especially with Philly coming off of the bye, but New England just coming off of that loss to Baltimore, I think that they can get that done. In our next matchup, Oakland minus 500 against Cincinnati. Another big money line here. You might want to parlay that. I don't see Cincinnati taking care of business against the Raiders. Los Angeles Rams face off against the Chicago Bears. Two teams who a lot of people had going to the NFC Championship. Two teams who aren't where they want to be this season. Regardless, I like the Rams on the money line here at minus 295. And in our last matchup, the Monday night matchup, Kansas City Chiefs against the Los Angeles Chargers. Kansas City Chiefs just took a tough L against the Tennessee Titans, but I like them here minus 4 against a divisional foe. I think Pat Mahomes bounces back huge in this one, and the Chargers aren't going to be able to keep up with him. Troy Anthony here for Football Game Plan's NFL Best Bets.
Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
Welcome back to the NFL All-32 show. Now let's get into the Week 11 action, which has several intriguing matchups on offer. 4 teams are on the bye this week. The Seahawks, Packers, Titans, and Giants have the week off. Our first game features the Lions looking for answers, but they might get more questions as they host the Cowboys, who are now just 5-4. They lost to Minnesota last week. A lot of people in Dallas are frustrated with what this team has done.
Well, because the offense isn't consistent enough to where you can count on them to be a 30-point-per-game type of an offense. They have the pieces. They have the running back. They have the quarterback. They have the tight end and receivers. It just has to be the play calling that comes to the table, and I think they're facing the perfect remedy, the Detroit Lions. Yes, the Lions' defense is solid, but their offense won't be able to move the football enough, I don't think, against this Cowboys defense, which means that Cowboys offense will get more opportunities with the football. I think we'll see a bounce-back game for Dallas. I do like them to win.
Our next game features 2 teams that are treading water, but just barely. The Jaguars taking on the Colts. The question is, will Jacoby Brissett be back for the Colts in this game? Jacksonville is rested. They're coming off a bye week, but it's a must-win for them.
Must win for both teams because quietly, Jacksonville is still in play for this division and even in better play for a wild card in the AFC. I think that 6th spot is up for the taking. 1 of 5 teams are going to vie for that 6th spot. So this is a big game for Jacksonville. You're right. Question is, how much of a difference Nick Foles will make coming back. This will be his first game starting since getting the job back after coming back from an injury. So we'll see what this offense will look like with Nick Foles. And we may see what this defense could look like for Indianapolis against a guy that's back in the game, as not the most athletic, but a guy that they can get a grapple on. I think that'll be the case. I like Indy to win this one defensively.
We move now to the AFC East, where the Dolphins take on the Bills. Dolphins all of a sudden have won 2 games in a row. Buffalo, they just dropped a game to Cleveland. They were in a must-win situation. If
I were to ask you, who would you trust or feel comfortable with going into a game with Ryan Fitzpatrick or Josh Allen, who would you choose?
Probably Fitzpatrick at this point.
Yeah, because you think about how well that offense has looked. And I'm not saying their offense has been 30 points a game since Fitzpatrick stepped in, but him taking over for Josh Rosen, the offense looks a lot better. And they're moving the football. They're winning games. They've won 2 games in a row. Buffalo defensively has been there. And they can only hold you so far without getting help from their offense. But they need their offense to step up and help them out. Josh Allen is playing efficient inside the red zone, but outside the red zone, trying to hit the deep ball, that's where he's struggling. So they really need him to step up and start to live up to that 7th overall selection status from 2 seasons ago. But I think the Dolphins have found something with their head coach in Brian Flores. He's striking the right chord. I think they upset Buffalo.
And Buffalo will need this game if they want to stay in the AFC race. Next up, Broncos taking on the Vikings. We saw what we needed to from Minnesota, a huge win against Dallas on Sunday night. The Broncos are going to have a lot of challenges trying to move this ball against a very good Viking defense.
Hey, man, Kirk Cousins is playing efficient football. He's playing solid. He's playing within himself. He's not turning it over. He's not taking unnecessary risks with the ball. He's taking some good challenges, and he's moving his offense down the field, and they're getting great production from Dalvin Cook. So all things are working in a positive direction for Minnesota. And I like what I'm seeing from Denver's defense. I think even without the injuries, or even with the injuries, they're still playing very good defense. We'll find out a lot about Brandon Allen in this ball game. I think the Vikings defense will baptize him to the NFL this week more so than what he saw against the Cleveland Browns. I like Minnesota.
Let's move to the next game now. The Saints taking on the Bucs. The Saints were slowed to a crawl last week. They lost to the Falcons. The Buccaneers, though, continue to show that they have a lot of power when they don't turn the ball over on offense. The question is, can the Saints avoid back-to-back losses?
Can they or will they? That's the biggest question, because one team that has given the Saints some issues has been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we don't know which Jameis Winston will show up, and we saw him play great in Seattle. We saw an inconsistent Jameis against Arizona, although they did get the win in that one. And I thought he played best versus Seattle, and he got a loss. So we don't know what Jameis you're going to see, but we do know the Saints have to cover those 2 receivers out on the perimeter, Chris Godwin and also Mike Evans. Can they slow that down? Can they cover the tight end, O.J. Howard? That's going to be the biggest issue. I think right now what the Saints don't have to worry about is the run game for Tampa Bay. So that may be a concern. When you look at New Orleans, their offense, slow to a crawl like you talked about, kept out of the end zone. I think it was more so an issue with how they tried to attack the Bucs. They probably were a little bit more over-aggressive. The run game didn't pop like they thought it would. And the Falcons had a really good game plan coming off of a bye. So I think with all that said, the Saints will eke out a close win against Tampa Bay.
We move now to another matchup in the AFC. The Jets just got a win against a rookie quarterback last week when they defeated the Giants. They get another one this week because the Redskins have gone to Dwayne Haskins. He will be the starter for the rest of the season in Washington. They only have one win. They had to try something here to try to get things back on track. But if the Jets win this, should they move to the NFC East at this point, or what do you think?
Yeah, they'll make the playoffs in the NFC East by share of winning the division. But I do think the Redskins have something here with Dwayne Haskins being the starter, and now coming off of a bye, coming off of his first start against the Bills where he played okay, and now he's going to build that continuity. And quietly, the Redskins defense does one thing that Sam Darnold can't handle: apply pressure. I like the Redskins to get the win in Dwayne Haskins' first start at home in front of his fans out there in Washington.
But the Jets defense did step up in a big way in this last game against the Giants. It'll be a question to see how he adjusts to a very potent front seven. But the secondary for the Jets is a little bit suspect, so it'll be interesting if he can take advantage. Let's move to the last game here before we take a quick break, and it's the Falcons taking on the Panthers. The Falcons literally took their entire coaching staff last week, threw it in a bag, tossed it out, and decided this is your assignment, and it worked. They had a great game against the Saints. The Panthers lost a tight one against Green Bay. Can the Falcons keep up this momentum or are they just going to, have to shake the bag again to figure out who's going to be playing where?
Well, they can't, because here's the thing: what they did against New Orleans, they stopped the run. If you're going to beat Carolina, you got to stop Christian McCaffrey, because Kyle Allen can't beat you throwing the football. So their focus is going to be, hey, we stopped 22. We know 7 can't beat us, and that's going to be the biggest challenge in this ball game. Offensively, they have the weapons to have success. We know all about their weapons. I like how they're starting to get Brian Hill more involved in the passing game, so we'll see if that continues. But can they block up front against this Carolina defense, dealing with the offensive line issues that they had all season long? I like Atlanta in this ball game. I think defensively, they'll get the job done. I'm not as high on Kyle Allen. I'm also not as high on firing Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn is a solid coach, a good coach. I think he has gotten it turned around. I think they'll use that win against New Orleans to carry over into this game against Carolina.
Certainly was unorthodox last week, and it worked, so we'll see if that continues with a second win in a row. After this short break, we will cover the later and primetime games of Week 11 here on the Game Plus Network. Stay with us.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website, ninethandlux.com, and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music, with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app.
Welcome back, fans. Let's return to the Week 11 predictions. No one can seem to slow down Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore Ravens offense in 2019. They are one of the most efficient in the league. Houston comes into this game with a decent offense, but a banged-up defense. Are they up to the task of slowing down Lamar Jackson?
They are up to the task because they can score the ball, and I think it's going to be a challenge for their Ravens secondary. And here's what we know about Deshaun Watson. That game will come down to the wire. He's not going to quit. He's going to make sure he gets everyone involved. I think the biggest challenge will also be at that second level. Can those linebackers cover underneath? We saw Jordan Akins start to arrive as a tight end in this offense, and we saw how they utilized Duke Johnson as well. So this will be a challenge. And you see Houston's offense starting to gain that confidence defensively, even without J.J. Watt. I thought they played a solid game in their last outing. So this is a very good, solid Houston team. This may be a playoff preview between Houston and America's team and America's quarterback, Lamar Jackson. But I do think when you look at Lamar Jackson and that Ravens offense, how often have we been able to say the Ravens are number one in many categories? Scoring offense, rushing yards, yards per game. The Ravens are number one. They're doing a great job. I think they knock off Houston in a great game, one that should have been flexed to the evening game, but they'll win 1 o'clock down there in Baltimore.
Leading statistical categories that are defense. We're not used to seeing that from the Baltimore Ravens. Let's move to our next game here. The Cardinals taking on the 49ers. We'll see how the 49ers react to a gunslinging quarterback in Murray, who is now developing into quite the player. He's finally found his game. The question is, can he avoid the mistakes against a very solid defensive team?
We saw him have success against San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and that game came down to the wire. Their defense couldn't close out that game against the 49ers, and Jimmy Garoppolo played what I thought it was his best game in converting every third down that he needed to convert. So we saw the best of those two. What I like about this matchup is that they're playing 2 weeks apart. So now we get to see a completely new game plan for both teams. So what we saw 2 weeks ago, we won't see in this matchup, and I think that's going to be prime for new innovation and things that we've seen. But the chemistry that we saw from Murray and Kirk will help them out in this game. I don't know defensively if they still are good enough to stop San Francisco, so I'm going to go with the 49ers.
We now move to the Bay. Cincinnati still looking for their first win as they take on the Raiders this week. Raiders are looking for back-to-back home wins. They've actually been very, very good as of late. They're trending upwards. Can Oakland get on a run and maybe end up in the postseason?
You have to include John Gruden for Coach of the Year candidate as well. The situation he went through all offseason, even start going back to their draft with Cleveland Farrell at 4 and, losing Khalil Mack, and we know the offseason issues they had with Antonio Brown. But now, Raiders are in playoff contention. They may even be a threat in the AFC West. These are the type of games where you expect the Raiders to go in and win. If you want to be a good team, you have to go in and beat teams that are not doing well. Bengals are not doing well. I think the Raiders offense take full advantage. I like Oakland.
Let's move now to later games on Sunday. The Patriots taking on the Eagles. Both teams are coming off a bye. We know these teams have history in the recent past, but the Eagles absolutely need this win. The Patriots are still 8-1. Huge game for Philadelphia.
Still 8-1. Need this win. Philadelphia is trying to keep up with the Cowboys. What I like about them is that they can attack the second level. They're tight ends, and we know Carson Wentz does a great job of hitting those tight ends, getting every one of those guys involved. They're going to have to win on the perimeter. If they can't win on the perimeter, they won't have the success. The running game has been able to help them out. We'll see what we saw against Baltimore, rear its ugly head again against this Eagles team. Can the Eagles run the football against New England like the Ravens did? So that'll be the key. I don't know if they have enough defense to really shut down that passing game of New England. I like the Patriots.
I think the interesting thing to watch is with the Patriots coming off a bye, now Mohamed Sanu has had more of a chance to ingrain himself into this offense. I wonder if he's going to be used as a bigger weapon now down the stretch, now that he's had a week to really learn the playbook, learn the system with this bye week. We know what the Patriots can do on offense. With him as another weapon, they might be unstoppable.
Don't sleep on N'Keal Harry as well. We could probably see the first-round pick get out there, and that's another big inside threat at receiver.
Let's move to the Sunday night game now, and it's going to be a very interesting one. Both teams need this. The Bears and the Rams. Both sides are stuck in neutral. They need to kick it up a gear if they want to make the postseason. The Rams, especially coming off of an offseason where people thought they were going to be a Super Bowl contender. Chicago's defense is outstanding. The offense still cannot find anything.
Both quarterbacks you have problems trusting in this ball game. The run game, while personnel tells you that they're talented, they haven't been able to find that continuity. Defensively, both teams I think are equal. They can get pressure, they can stop you, and they can turn the ball over. So I think a lot of commonality is in this ball game. I don't trust the Bears offense more so Mitch Trubisky. I think the Rams get a big win Sunday night against Chicago.
Big game if you like defense. You'll definitely want to tune in for this one. Let's move now to the last game of the weekend. Monday night, the Chiefs taking on the Chargers. The Chiefs looked mortal again last week. They lose another game. They now have 4 losses. They are in danger of missing the postseason. The Chargers, we know what to expect from them. They step up to the opponent or step down. This is a chance for them to step up and get a huge win.
Yeah, and one that they can get them right back into playoff contention. And this is the type of game that we've seen the Chargers play up to, and we've seen them play each and every game the same way. Can Kansas City's defense get a key stop? They do have some good players out there. I'm not going to trash their defense. I think their defense has guys that can get the job done. It's all about continuity. Can they get off the field on third downs? I don't know if I can trust the Chargers offense to play a consistent game. I do think Los Angeles goes in very game, but Kansas City will put up more than enough points. And that downward pressure is not what Los Angeles wants to see. Their defense will be good, but I don't think their offense will have the success that people are projecting them to have against the Chiefs defense.
And the big equalizer in this game will be the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, which is hosting this game. We've seen in the past this field has had conditions that have not exactly been up to par. So the question is, which team can adjust to that, overcome the stadium elements of this game, as well as the high altitude?
Yeah, you're going to see punts go for miles in this game.
Perhaps the 65-yard field goal. Maybe we'll see that in this one. That'll do it for the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show. Don't forget, for all your football knowledge, go to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense, and go to SoundCloud or iTunes, where you can listen to the NFL All-32 podcast with myself, Emery, Troy Anthony, and Alex Marinoni, talking about all the buzz across the NFL. For the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt, I'm David Hassagen. Enjoy the Week 11 action, and thanks for watching.